Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, we are covering a book talk recommendation, Neon Gods, written by Katie Roberts. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored in part by audiobooks.com. Audiobooks.com now has 175,000 titles and 1.2 million podcasts. New customers get 3 free audiobooks comprised of 1 premium credit and 2 VIP titles. Use our promo code Shelf Addiction, spelled as one word, when you sign up at audiobooks.com. Again, our promo code is Shelf Addiction. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Participate in this discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. I hope to hear your thoughts on today's topic. You can always find me and Casey on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including after shows and more. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, we've got a lot to talk about today, so we are going to jump right on in. Joining me is the feature co-host, Casey from Heart Full of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy you're here today to talk about this wild book. Or it's kind of wild, I guess, depending on who you ask.
Yes. You're asking me, and I will tell you.
Yes. So, you guys, we are going to jump right in like we normally do. We're going to do the stats, the synopsis, and we're going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully you will enjoy this new thing we're doing. You know, Book Talk made us do it. We picked this book because of Book Talk.
Yes.
It's been making the rounds. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see if Book Talk can give us a good recommendation or not, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So today we are talking about Neon Gods, written by Katie Roberts. First published June 1st, 2021. Published by Source Books, Casablanca, and Dreamscape Media. The audiobook comes in at 10 hours and 40 minutes. It was narrated by Zara Hampton Brown and Alex Morak. The paperback comes in at 380 pages. All right. Casey, would you please read the synopsis?
I would be happy. He was supposed to be a myth, but from the moment I crossed the river Styx and fell under his dark spell, he was quite simply mine. Society darling Persephone Demetrio plans to flee the ultra-modern city of Olympus and start over far from the backstabbing politics of the 13 houses. But that's all ripped away when her mother ambushes her with an engagement to Zeus, the dangerous power behind their glittering city's dark facade. With no options left, Persephone flees to the forbidden Undercity and makes a devil's bargain with the man she once believed a myth, a man who awakens her to a world she never knew existed. Hades has spent his life in the shadows, and he has no intention of stepping into the light. But when he finds that Persephone can offer a little slice of the revenge he spent years craving, it's all the excuse he needs to help her for a price. Yet every breathless night spent tangled together has given Hades a taste for Persephone, and he'll go to war with Olympus itself to keep her close. Dun, dun, dun.
Right. Okay. So first and foremost, let me say, I feel like I had a different reaction the first time I read it from the second time.
Okay.
Because the first time I consumed this, number one, I had a few factors that were much different. I was on vacation, so it was a vacation time. So you're already
happy and relaxed and open for anything.
Exactly. You know, the feel-good vibes were coming through, drinking all day, lots of wine. I had I think my experience second time around, I only read it twice because it had been so long. It had been like a month since I read it. So the second time around, let's just say it wasn't as enjoyable. So, not that I hated it, but that does make me wonder if I had read this at home the first time around, would I have felt the way I feel now or the way I felt the first time? Hopefully, I'm not confusing anybody.
It makes sense to me, but I have the same brain, so.
Yeah. So, high level, that's basically what I thought. What about you?
It was very meh and mild to me, start to finish. Not gonna lie. It was meh. It's not bad, but it's not great.
Okay.
And I have a lot of kind of persnickety thoughts about it, so.
Okay.
To start off with, the sex is very mild in this book. Like,
so again, this is perception, I think, because to me, the sex itself wasn't that spicy. I think that it was more the acts that were kind of spicy. Like, for example, in this book, like the kink is like public doing things in front of people, right? That was the kink. And a little bit of Dom and
which
it was a little of that.
With,
but you could tell that wasn't really what he wanted. That was really for show. I feel like that part of it, that domineering part was really for show more than anything else.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But the kink for both of them was, oh, look at me.
Yeah.
So some of that I found pretty entertaining. But yeah, no, they weren't doing anything wild in front of people. They were just, it was, which is what I think would be appropriate. I mean, I'm not full on fucking on stage in front of a room of people. I mean, some people were doing that there. But for me, I felt like, well, this is kind of like a little spice. It's a little sexy, but it's not like outrageous where you'd be like, oh my God, what is this?
See, that's the reaction I was seeing on TikTok and Book Talk, as people going like, oh my God, it's the sexiest thing ever. It's so spicy. You'll be scandalized for life. And I'm just like,
no,
this is mild. This is like honey sauce level mild. Like, this is...
It's not vanilla.
I don't know.
It's a drizzle of chocolate on it, right? It's like, it's not a full-on sundae, but it's not plain ass vanilla either.
No, it's not plain ass vanilla, but it's just so meh. I'm sorry, like I keep saying meh. But it just... I guess I've been reading too many erotic BDSM books for my entire life, and this one, everybody's like, oh my God, it's so hot, it's so amazing, and so I was expecting something more, and it was not. It was not more.
No, I feel like, honestly, a Sarah J. Maas book might give you a little more than this, minus the public sex, right? Those people in her books are pretty possessive about what's theirs. They're not sharing. They're not doing any of that.
Oh, I have all kinds of BDSM books that I can recommend.
Oh,
like,
really?
True, accurate BDSM books written by authors who live in the lifestyle. And you can tell, like, Katie Robert has done some research. She knows what she's talking about. But it's still not very accurate for the lifestyle, which I know people don't want reality and fiction, but, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can tell that she doesn't live this the way other writers who do live it and write the stories are like, oh, you know.
Oh, you
and Katie
know.
Roberts is like, nope, this is vanilla ice cream with a little bit of chocolate.
Book Talk over exaggerated 100%. This was a stretch. They stretched it really hard as far as the sexy level or heat level.
Yeah, absolutely. They stretched it because it's just so... Again, the word that is in my head is just mild. It's just so mild. And I know this is really kinky for some people, And
it's kink light. I mean, I'm not doing all that, but it's still kink light. I know it's kink light, right? It's light.
Yeah.
But that means they haven't read a lot, because I've read some stuff where I'm like, WTF? The fuck? No.
Yeah.
Like, that's too much. So I've read books where I'm saying that's too much. And this is the polar opposite of that. It was like they could have went a little more.
She could have gone really hardcore and it would have been better. But she didn't. So, That's why I guess I get why you say meh now. I mean, if you were going into it expecting this fiery time with a lot of... Yeah, even from book talk, but even in the beginning, Hades was trying to be like, I'm going to control you, I'm going to do all these things to you. And don't get me wrong, I love the fact that she's a brat. I love brats. Brats are amazing. But he just stopped controlling everything, and he let her top from the bottom for like most of the book.
Said. Yeah, he even said she's doing that.
And he acknowledged it. And then he just kind of went, I'm going to keep letting her control everything. And I was like, that's not how this works.
Unless he's the submissive, he likes being the bottom. He likes being the submissive. Maybe that's how it is.
He does. I mean, he can be a switch. Switches are hot too. There's some amazing switches out there. That's totally fine. Yeah. But the setup of the story itself told me something different. And that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
And then it just fizzled out on itself.
See, I don't think I mind. Well, okay, so I guess I didn't mind that all the way, because I am a fan of, we have a regular relationship day to day. But if we're going to go into a little sex room, or we're going to do the thing, like as he say, in a scene, right? When you're in the scene, you're in the scene.
Yeah.
But I don't like the stories where the men, like 50 Shades, they trying to control you all day and all night. I don't like that. So I was cool with him being a little soft or a little kind toward her when they weren't in the scene.
No, that's totally fine. And that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking like straight up the sex scenes when they were together and having sex. He was letting her control most of everything. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for with this book.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a switch, tell me that you're going to be a switch. Tell me that things are going to get changed up. Don't just let her top from the bottom and you just go with it. Like, no, talk to each other about it. Communication is key.
Well, they did have they had two, I guess, very good discussions. I guess the first one, when they were talking about the safe word kind of thing, right? And like, what you're comfortable with. So I could appreciate that conversation.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I love the fact that it was super consenty. They had that conversation. That was very realistic. And not a lot of kinky books on Amazon right now want to have those conversations. They just want the men to, read minds, which is not reality.
No.
So again, I appreciate that. Thank you, Katie Robert, for writing those scenes.
Like the character was even asking, like, so what about this and that and this? And she's like, I don't know. It was like very let's
true
go through
negotiation.
The list. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I love the fact that she included it. Like, that's reality. That's what you need to do if you're ever going to have a BDSM scene with anybody. You need to go through that negotiation.
Absolutely, because no one wants to be like caught off guard with some crazy shit that you didn't agree to. That's not good.
No. You have to agree to everything beforehand.
Yeah. So I like that. And then I also like the scene where it was a little awkward, but they, again, had the consent scene about going without a condom, all of this stuff.
Yes.
So it was another thing. And she was equally, well, how are you comfortable? You let me know if you change your mind. He's like, yeah, you let me know if you change your mind. I'm like, well,
that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Yeah. So it's like neither one of them are making any assumptions about each other. So in that respect, I think the author did a very responsible job writing this story.
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
But was it sexy? That's a different question.
Yeah, that's a very different question. Because again, like you, I respect her for writing those scenes. I really appreciate the fact that they both asked each other about their comfort levels.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, overall sex? Meh. It wasn't.
You know, the one scene I didn't like, for some reason, the scene where, like, the author built up this scene, like, for where she was gonna, like, perform fellatio on him. And then when it came to pass, I was kind of like, I'm like, that wasn't very cute to me. I didn't like it because, okay, I think I just have, like, some type of feeling about people being in a position that doesn't make them feel good, right? So she's like expressing outwardly that she wants to do this. But then the thing that was confusing me was, like, you know, the whole, like, gagging thing, the whole tears down the face thing,
making her cry.
I didn't like that. I'm like, what is that? Like, she wants to do that like that? I mean, why does it have to be so, like, it's always, I almost felt like a man thought of that part, because it's always like, let me F you with my dick. And it's always aggressive down their throat. You know what I mean? It's always aggressive. They're always choking or crying or whatever. And I hate that. I hate that altogether. I feel like that could have been a much sexier scene and got the point across without, like, going that route. I couldn't understand why she chose to write it that way, unless it was just strictly her trying to make us think, quote unquote, it was like dominance. You know what I mean? Even though she was doing that.
I kind of got that feeling too, that it was supposed to be rough and dominant and kinky and sexy, except it just wasn't.
No.
Like, yeah, hot blowjob, but this doesn't feel domineering because she's topping from the bottom. This doesn't feel kinky because it's, you know, she's doing what she wants to do.
Yeah, and then it made me think, like, honestly, instead of me saying, oh, well, she's doing what she wants to do, this made me think of what Hades' character said earlier in the book, that she has no sense of, like, self-preservation, basically. Like, she will just keep doing stuff to harm herself for the sake of others or the sake of the situation.
Yes.
So I'm like, was that this?
It kind of felt like it. Yeah.
You know? They were trying to make a point, and they made the point, but did she even like it? It seemed like it just mixed the message, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. And the first time around, I also didn't like that scene, but I think I kind of let it slide. I was like, okay, next. But the second time around, I'm like, not this scene. So I definitely remember not enjoying that scene.
Yes.
So were there any scenes or things that stood out to you that you just did not like?
Not necessarily. Like, I wasn't hating the book as I read it. It was just meh. So the thing is, this should have been a really good book for me. It hit a lot of the things that I like reading about. Like, I love Hades and Persephone's retellings. I love BDSM books and reading kinky stuff. Like, it should have been a good book. But there was just something about it that did not capture me the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the sex, if it was the world building, if it was the fact that it's written in first person present tense, if it was something else. Like, it was good, but it just never really captured my attention. And then as we kept going along with the sex scenes, I was like, this is just getting milder and milder, and I'm just less and less interested.
Well,
okay, hold on. To jump to the very end, there was one thing that made me a little mad.
Okay, what was it?
Spoil everything. When Persephone goes back to Zeus, you know, and she's all dressed up in her black dress, but then she just lets Zeus, like, manhandle her and start taking pictures, and she's smiling for the camera. I got upset at that. I was like, you just need to stab this motherfucker. Just right here in front of everybody. Don't put on your stupid persona again. Don't pretend like everything's fine. Just pull out a dagger, stab him in the gut. Like, you don't even have to kill him. Just stab him to show him you're not bending to him. But no, she just had to bend to him all over again.
Yeah, that lets me know that there was no growth in her character.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when she's with Hades, she feels like she could be herself.
Yes.
And when she's not, she's under that perfect girl persona, persona. And that's not changed.
Not at all. And I know it's only been a month or 6 weeks or whatever, and change comes slowly, but Jesus Christ, like,
right.
You just stepped right back into the same role you were in chapter 1. Like, there was no change whatsoever. And yes, you went and talked to your mother and had a conversation, and then Hades gets to have his moment, but, like, she did not change at all.
No.
So that was more frustrating. I was like, you stupid girl, just stab him. Just take a knife and stab him. Like, you don't even have to kill him, just stab him.
Just stab him right in the cheek or something.
Yes! Just something to show that you're not bending to his will.
Yeah. Actually, that whole scene was kind of gross. I mean, it was like, now he knows she'll do all this stuff. And he's like, oh, I'm about to take I'm going to take full advantage now that I know you do all these things and whatever. But, like, gross.
Yeah, no. That was frustrating. I think that was the most frustrating part of the book for me. Okay. Was that she just didn't grow at all, didn't change, went immediately back to her old self, even though she was wearing the black dress and trying to pretend like she's changed. I was like, no, there is literally no change in you.
No, and it been, I don't think, did they reach officially the 3 months, or it was cut short? Was it cut short?
It was cut short.
Yeah.
I think they maybe made it like 6 weeks.
Okay, look, y'all, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk about the audiobook narrators a little bit. We're going to talk about some more things that we liked and didn't like. Maybe even talk about, I don't know, whatever. Come back and find out. Come back and find out. Check out the links in the show notes. You can find us on socials. Check out the book review journal. I love that thing. It's awesome.
It is so cute.
Thank you. And by listening to the commercials, you are supporting us. So do that and come right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. All right, guys, we are back. We are going to jump right back on into our conversation about Neon Gods. Which, okay, can I just take a step all the way back? All the way back. And I'm not going to lie, this cover art is attractive. It's like that old, remember when everyone had like some one thing on the cover? It was like they would have I don't know, silk scarf or a lipstick or a whatever it is. Yeah, any one object, a mask, whatever. And I'm like, it kind of took me back there because this had a throne on it, which was their little seat that they sat in their playroom or whatever. But I thought it was really pretty with like all of the neon colors on it. So it's like the same, but a little
different.
Spin.
Yeah.
So when I was looking in the bookstore, when I picked it up, I'm like, oh, this does look attractive to me. I would pick it up and be curious about it, just perusing the book talk shelf, because, they got book talk sections, and this was in it. So I'm like, yeah, okay, win. From the outside, I feel like the publisher did their job. It's attractive. The story sounds good on the outside. It looks like you said earlier, it checks all the boxes from the outside. Did you like the cover art, or were you like,
Again, it's very meh to me. I'm old school. I like the covers with the couples on them, the half-naked men, the half-naked woman.
Yeah, I don't like those.
That's what I want to see again.
I hate those.
So, like, it was cute, it was attractive, but it wasn't like, ooh, yes, I want this. It was more like, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing. It's intriguing, but it start to finish, this whole thing has been pretty meh for me. Which is sad. Like, I wanted to like this book. I've heard so many people rave about it. I've heard so many people rave about Katie Roberts and how hot and sexy she is. I have heard in other discourses that her self-published books are a lot hotter than this.
Okay.
So I may try one for science, just to see.
You're like, I'll do it for science,
I'll do it for science, just see. Is it actually hotter or is it still just mild everything? But.
Well, okay, so you know how the first time around, I liked the book. I liked it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a 5-star read. It definitely wasn't that. But I enjoyed it. And I think that even though I enjoyed it, I still knew I would not want to read more of this series. I knew that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it was cute, but I'm done. Because I didn't want to read. I feel like it would be more of the same with slightly different kinks. Because, we find out she's got these sisters. And of course, there are more gods. And it's going to be matchmaking, at least with the 2 sisters that we know about.
Probably,
and they're going to meet these guys that have some kind of different kink or something. And it's going to be more of the same heat level. And to be honest, I had pre-saved this book, the audiobook. So I'm like, okay, I'll re-listen. But because I was already at the end of it, thought I wanted the next audiobook.
Oh.
So it started the next audiobook. I'm listening. Like, this sounds familiar, but different. And I looked at it. I'm like, oh, this is a different sister. I'm like, it sounds so similar. But I'm like, no, this wasn't happening. It was like the vibe, the story. It felt the same, but I could tell it was different. And I'm like, did I completely forget what happened? And I look, I'm like, oh, this is the next book. And to me, that's bad that it felt so similar.
Yes. You don't want it to feel similar. Different sisters need to be very different.
Yeah. So I think I made the right call because I'm like, wow. And I listened for maybe 10 minutes and I'm like, no. There's something's wrong. But this just I'm like, the whole 10 minutes passed before I stopped to evaluate what was happening.
That's not good. That's not a good sign at all.
No, that's not good at all. And then it's funny because the first time around I listened to the audiobook, I think it was 1.8. Sometimes I was on 2. But this time I'm like, okay, I want to just get through it. So I put it on 2.5. And after a while, it started sounding normal to me. I'm like, wow, I guess I can listen on 2.5. Because I'm like, I need to get this thing over with. That's how I felt. I wasn't enjoying it the second time around. I'm like, let me just remember the story and get through it.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt picking it up. I was intrigued by chapter 1. I was like, okay, this is new. This is different. But then by chapter 3 or 4, I'm like, okay, I'm getting tired. Maybe I should go to bed. I'll pick this up tomorrow. I did not care to keep reading. It wasn't keeping me hooked. I didn't need to know what happened next. If I didn't have to read this for the podcast, I could very easily see myself putting it down and then just forgetting about it for 6 months. And then being like, oh yeah, didn't I start reading that book? Oh crap, I need to finish that. Just forgetting it.
Yeah. And that's not good. So no. I feel like because of this and because how precarious book talk can be, when we do another book talk book, I will not. This was our first time, so I had read it before we decided, but I would never read it early. Never, because you're not gonna know what you're gonna get.
I mean, there's some wild books on Book Talk. If we want to just go crazy, we can find some wild stuff. Wild stuff on there.
I know, and I did do another Book Talk book on my own earlier. It was the planet, blue.
Oh, the ice
Ice
aliens.
Planet Barbarians. Yes, I read the first 2 books, and I'm like, I can't do this shit anymore. I can't do it. And that was another situation where the first book, I was like, oh, there's some problems here, but it was fine. You know, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Of course, so these books go on and on and on. And I think it's just each woman finding their own barbarian dude. I'm like, do I want to do this again and again? Because it was the same situation. The second book felt a lot like the first book with slightly different, you know, the guy still couldn't freaking speak English. The girl still, so I'm like getting a theme here on Book Talk. Like we like wannabe sexy books for people who don't read X-rated things.
Which is wild because they want to act like they read all these crazy sexy things. And I'm like, honey child, almost vanilla. Like, let me show you the real books. Let me show you the darkness.
So for adults on the adult spectrum, and by adult spectrum, I mean adults that have been in relationships and had sex, this is probably PG-13. PG-13 maybe. I would not say give it to teens. I still think it maybe older teens, maybe 17, maybe they could, because they probably be doing stuff anyway in high school, but definitely not younger teens, which a lot of Book Talk is made up of. They probably shouldn't be reading it because maybe they think it's X-rated, right? If you have a 15-year-old reading this,
if I was
they
15
may think
reading
it's
this, it would be one thing, but I'm not 15 anymore.
Right. That's why I think it's the audience too, because Book Talk, yes, there are older people like us on Book Talk, but there are a lot of kids on Book Talk.
This is true.
Teens and early 20s. And a lot of people still don't have any experience in their early 20s. So it might even seem X-rated to them. But it's not. Adults and on this podcast, we have adult listeners. I've checked the Matrix. We have adult listeners.
Yes.
Y'all, it may be PG-13 if you are into that vanilla lifestyle, which you can be.
Non-vanilla lifestyle. If you're a kinky bitch, this is PG-13. This is nothing. This is, you might get annoyed with some of the things Persephone. Like if you're truly in the lifestyle, you might actually get annoyed with this book.
But then I was trying to look, and I feel like that is a TikTok. At first, I thought it was a TikTok thing that classified this as erotica. But then I looked on Goodreads, and it says they were, I don't know if they won the award or if they were nominated for the Erotic Romance Award in 2021. I'm not sure if this is a win or a nomination.
I mean,
because that's what I was trying to say. I thought it was just like inflicted upon this book by the readers, not by like the author and the publisher saying, yes, this is an erotic book, because it's not tagged as such. Not really.
I don't know. Maybe that was a reader-based award thing, and the readers thought it was erotic.
I don't know. It is romance, but I wouldn't classify this as an erotic read.
No, not at all.
I don't know.
So I do have a question for you about the world building. And maybe I just missed this, because I can't quite figure out where in the world they are. Modern times, but they're kind of off on their own little magical island. But they're also very much aware of our Earth. And they keep making references to random states. Like, she wants to run away to California. Hades made a joke about Ohio. One of his people was, like, from Greece. And I'm just like, where are you? Was that ever really explained?
No. No. And I just kind of thought it was some kind of made up town on the East Coast. And what made me think of the East Coast was like the temperature.
Yeah,
like,
it was
they were
freezing.
talking about being cold. Yeah. And, I'm like, well, you could be on any random city with a bridge, like Chicago, right? Chicago, like there's a couple cities, major cities that have like bridges across rivers, right? So I thought like maybe one of those type of places because it wasn't named to me. So I just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Olympus, and they're in their own little area, but also, like, Katie Robert tried very hard to make it so that they were on Earth. Like, it's not a different world, it is very much Earth. And she kept referencing different things. But then there's, like, these are the only politicians, there are no cops, there's nothing keeping the 13 in check, like they're, the mafia.
Yeah.
And even the mafia tries to keep things in line around the FBI. Like,
Yeah.
it just
seems like they're isolated. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't feel like they ran the world or even ran the states because, when she wanted to run away to California, like California was out of bounds, right? Like, oh, I can run to California. So.
And that just didn't make sense to me.
I didn't even think of it that hard. But yeah, I just assumed that they were in some kind of isolated place on Earth, like their own town or something.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to figure out if, like, they explained it and I just, somehow skipped that page, or if it was never really explained.
Well, I'm going to say it wasn't explained, and if it was, somebody slapped me because I went through that book twice. And if I still missed it on the second time around,
well, that makes me feel better, because then it's, like, not very obvious about where it is.
No.
Because I definitely was like, did I just skip a page? Did I miss something important? Because I don't understand what this is.
I mean, they could have been in Maine for all we know. I mean, like, they could have occupied one state. Because, it just seemed like, as she ran away and she ran across this bridge, like, I imagined, like, this small bridge, and maybe it was 50 feet long, maybe, or, it wasn't very long because she ran
barefoot
to the end of it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like Mackinac Island Bridge, or, it wasn't something long, or, the bridge in
like, you can see the
San
other side of the
Francisco.
bridge by standing on one side.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it definitely has small town vibes, but like with their own cities.
Yeah, like they were on this floating island out in the middle of nowhere, away from regular people, but still connected to regular. It was just confusing to me, and I too.
Yeah, I don't know that answer. And speaking of like world building, I really almost wish she had got into, especially since she's going to go light on the sex, right? She could have gone a little bit deeper with explaining why. I mean, we know that Zeus killed his family, right? So we know that. But like, why are you like a myth? Why is it just to strictly, quote unquote, protect your people? But guess what? Everyone knows you're here anyway. So it's like you're a myth, but people know you're here? I don't understand how that works.
I think it was just the people in the upper city who want to pretend he's a myth, except half of them go down to his sex dungeon anyway and know that he's real. So it's only the people who are like airheads who don't know that he's real and just believe the myth. And they never fully explained either why Zeus killed his dad. They kind of dropped that son for a son bomb, but then never followed through with it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that she'll do it in one of the future books, like maybe one of Zeus's kids is one of the new lovers and they get to explain it or something. I probably won't read it, so somebody tell me what happens.
I'm not. I'm done. No one tell me what happens. I'm done with it.
I'm just curious. Like, Hades was acting like his dad was this beta male who didn't do anything, but there are kind of hints that his dad was a warrior who killed Zeus's son, so I'm curious enough to ask about it, but I don't know if I'm curious enough to read the books. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. But yeah, maybe I'll watch a YouTube video or something from someone that's going to explain it or something. But I'm done. So I think with that, maybe we should rate it.
Yes.
And then after we rate it, let's say if we thought Book Talk failed us or not. So how about you go first with your rating?
All right. As I've been saying this entire time, this book was just very meh to me. And I wish it was better. I wish it was different. I wish so many things, but I'm going to give it a solid 3 stars. It was well written. There is some plot to it. She did some good things with the kink and the consent, and I'm very happy about that. But overall, I could take it or leave it. So, 3 stars.
Okay, so when I first read it, I gave it 4 stars. And I will honor the 4 stars because that is how I felt the first time. Upon a second reading, it's 3 stars. So depending on how you wish to interpret that. I gave my, disclaimers. So it's a vacation read, right?
Yes.
It's a beachy, fun, you already got those endorphins going. You already feel good. So there are things that were improving the story for me, I think. So take that with a grain of salt. But today it's a 3. Initially it was a 4. So, Casey, do you think that Book Talk let us down?
Yes and no. So, yes, because I just don't like this book. But no, because I feel like this is one of the better written books that Book Talk promotes. If that makes sense. Like, some of the stuff Book Talk promotes is crappy and terrible. Not good. This is at least well written. There are some good qualities and good aspects about it. Would I recommend this book to anybody? Probably not. But I won't, judge you too harshly for reading it. I won't be like, oh, that's trash. Why are you reading trash? Like, it's... I understand why Book Talk likes it, especially if they're all very vanilla, new to kink, new to this world. I get it.
Yes.
But that being said, I probably will not very much trust Book Talk in the future. I'm always going to go in with several grains of salt thinking that, I probably won't like this. And just be pleasantly surprised if and when I do like something.
Okay, that's fair. I also have to split the vote like you. I feel like in one respect, it was a failure of a recommendation because I think there was just so much more that could have been done with it. Even if you didn't want to go full on hardcore sex, I feel like you could have given me more in other areas.
The world building, the fighting, anything could have been better.
Right. Even some more relationship building or even because the end got wrapped up pretty quickly, right?
It was way too fast.
Yeah, you could have dragged that out a little bit. Maybe have Persephone in some kind of real mortal danger or something. I don't know.
Or you could have made her grow as a character and not just fall right back into her submissive spot by Zeus. No, stab him. Stab him. Yeah,
exactly. But on the flip side, I agree with exactly what you said, Casey. For people who like romance with some moderate sex scenes, or if you're new to the arena, because again, I would not say this is an erotic book. It's just a romance with a spicier sex level, I think. Which is, a spicier scenes. It's not erotica in my book. So maybe this would be I think it's a beach read. It's an adult beach read. You could, it's that kind of book. Have fun with it. If you can have fun with it, I think it's a good enough read. But yeah, I'm not hopping on the train talking about, hey, y'all read this book. It's so great. No, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. So what I would like to know is, going forward, we're going to do a couple more of these over time, y'all. We're not going to do one right away, but we'll pick more over time. So if you're listening and you like Book Talk, you watch Book Talk, send us some recommendations of ones that are hitting all the notes for you. Like, oh,
Yes.
This book sounds so good. Or I bought this book because of Book Talk. If you have any of those, any genre, we're not going to limit it to romance, although most of Book Talk is romance. Send them on and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
No promises, but we'll see. We'll look at it and think and consider it. All right. I think we're done today. What do you think, Casey?
I think we're done. I think that's everything.
All right. Thanks so much, you guys, for tuning in and listening to the entire episode. We appreciate you for being here and, being entertained by us talking about Book Talk and fake erotica books.
Yep.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
Yes. And be sure to find us on social media. The links for Twitter and Instagram are below. And of course, you can always join us in Shelf Addiction Official or over on the Book Clubs app. So you know where to find us. And until next time, take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction Podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.